There was once a miller who had a beautiful daughter, and when she was grown up, he became anxious that she should be well married and taken care of. The miller said, "If a decent sort of man comes and asks her in marriage, I will give her to him."
Soon after, a suitor came forward who seemed very well-to-do. Miller promised him his daughter, but the girl did not seem to love him, because she had no confidence in him. As often as she saw him or thought about him, she always felt a chill in her heart.
"You are to be my bride, and yet you have never been to see me," said the groom.
"I'm sorry, I do not know where your house is."
The groom said, "My house is a long way in the woods. You must come and pay me a visit next Sunday. I have already invited company, and I will strew ashes on the path through the wood, so that you will be sure to find it."
When Sunday came, the girl set out on her way. She felt very uneasy without knowing exactly why. She filled both pockets full of lentils and peas. There were ashes strewn on the path through the woods. But nevertheless, at each step, she cast to the right and left the peas on the ground.
She came to the middle of the woods, where it was darkest, and there stood a lonely house, not pleasant in her eyes, for it was dismal and unhomelike. She walked in, but no one was there.
Turn back, pretty bride. Within this house you must not buy, for here do evil things happen.
The girl glanced round and perceived that the voice came from a bed was hanging in a cage by the wall, and again it cried,
Turn back, pretty bride. Within this house you must not buy, for here do evil things happen."
Then the pretty bride went on from one room into another through the whole house, but it was quiet, empty, and no soul to be found in it. At last, she reached the cellar, and there sat a very old woman, nodding her head.
"Can you tell me if my bridegroom live here?"
"Oh, poor child, do you know what was happened to you? You are in a place of cutthroats. You thought you were a bride and soon to be married, but death will be your spouse. Look here. I have a great kettle of water to set on, and when once they had you in their power, they will cut you in pieces without mercy, cook you, and eat you, for they are cannibals, unless I have pity on you."
Then the old man hid her behind a great cask where she could not be seen.
"Be as still as a mouse, and do not move or go away, or else you are lost. At night, when the robbers are asleep, we will escape. I have been waiting a long time for an opportunity."
Later, the wicked gang entered the house and brought another young woman with them, dragging her alone, and they were drunk and would not listen to her cries and groans. They cut her into pieces and the poor bride all while shaking and trembling when she saw a fate that the robber had intended for her.
One of them noticed on the little finger of their victim a golden ring, and as he could not throw it off easily, he took an axe and chopped it off. But the finger jumped away and fell behind the kiss on the bride's lap. The robber took up a light to look for it, but he could not find it. Then said one of the others,
"Have you looked behind great cars?"
"Come to supper and leave off looking till tomorrow. The finger cannot run away."
Then the robber said the old woman was right. They left off searching and sat down to eat. The old woman dropped some sleeping stuff into their wine, so that before long they stretched themselves on the cellar floor, sleeping and snoring.
When the bride heard that, she came from behind the cask and had to make her way among the sleepers, lying all on the ground, and she felt very much afraid. But by good luck she passed through, and the old woman with her, and they opened the door, and they made haste to leave that house of murderers.
The wind had carried away the ashes from the path, but peas and lentils had budded and sprung up. The moonshine upon them showed the way, and they went through the night. Till in the morning they reached the mill, and the girl told her father all that happened to her.
When the wedding day came, the friends and neighbors assembled, the miller having invited them, and the bridegroom also appeared. When they were all seated at the table, each one had to tell a story, but the bride sat still and said nothing, till at last the bridegroom said to her, "Now, sweetheart, do you know no story? Tell us something."
"I will tell you my dream. I was going alone through a woods, and I came into a house in which there was no living soul. But by the wall it was a bird in a cage who cried, 'Turn back, pretty bride. In this house people do evil things betide.' Sweetheart, my dream is not ended yet." Then I went through all the empty rooms, and they were all empty, and it was so lonely and wretched. At last I went down into the cellar, and there sat an old woman nodding her head. I asked her if my bridegroom lived here, and she replied, "Ah, poor child, you have come into a cutthroat's. Your bridegroom does live here, but he will kill you and cut you into pieces. He will cook you and eat you." "Sweetheart, the dream is not end yet. But the old men hid me behind a great cask, and the robber came home, dragging with them a young woman. They gave her to drink wine thrice, white, red, and yellow." "Sweetheart, the dream is not ended yet, and they killed her and cut her into pieces." "Sweetheart, the dream is not end yet. One of the robbers saw a gold ring on the figure of the young woman, and as it was difficult to get off, he took an axe and chopped off the finger, which jumped upward and then fell behind a great cask on my lap. And here is the finger with the ring."
At these words she drew it forth and showed it to the company, for the robber, who during the story had grown deadly white, sprang up and would have escaped, but the folks held him fast and delivered him to justice. And he and his whole gang were for their evil deeds condemned and executed. The end. Thank you.